Привет всем, с вами я, Janie, и это How Janie Learned Russian. Welcome back. I'm glad you came back to class. Today is day 3 of my semester-long class that goes along with my textbook. Today we are talking about plurals, so get ready. And again, just because you've been studying Russian for a while and you think you're a little expert, it doesn't hurt to review because plurals are actually one of those things that you can take for granted is pretty straightforward in Russian, and there's actually some kind of weird little things here. So today we're going to be talking about plurals. Yesterday we talked about gender, and don't you worry, we'll review. We review at the beginning of every class. We review whatever we talked about the day before. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so today we are working on pages 5 and 6 in the textbook. Um, Also, we will be finding plurals in our songs. Okay, so we'll skip to the end of the textbook and look for some of those plurals. In fact, let me get that ready. Um, so also we're going to be talking about this magical thing called the 7-letter spelling rule, which now with autocorrect, I don't know how important it is, but it is important for speaking. And also this concept of consonants being soft and hard is extremely important if you want to have good pronunciation in Russian. We're also going to talk about pluralizing neuters, which is something, again, some people may not pay a lot of attention to. I have students who consider themselves intermediate students, and they totally blank on how to pluralize a neuter. So that's kind of funny. Just my quick obligatory plug that is going to happen every time at the beginning of every class. The textbook is available over on my Patreon, and I will also be offering group classes this fall starting on September 17th. There's a membership tier on my Patreon where you can sign up and get unlimited classes at both the intermediate and the beginning level. So the beginning level follows the textbook, and the intermediate level, we will be using Russian movies as our kind of launching point for discussion. So go head over to Patreon to learn more about that. Like I said, the last 2 weeks of September will be free for anyone and everyone, and then the membership format starts in October. So awesome. Let's go ahead and get started with a quick review of gender. So get ready. Okay, so I'm going to say these. Obviously, I'm not going to have them written in Russian on the screen because then it gives it away. So what I want you to do is I'm going to say the phrase first по-английски, and you're going to tell me, как будет по-русски. Вот это первая задача. А вторая задача – это tell me the gender. Он, она, оно или они. Хорошо. Good day. Как будет по-русски? По-русски будет добрый день. Это он, она, оно или они. Это он. Remember that ends in a miyaki знак, so we look at the adjective in front because adjectives, just like Shakira's hips, don't lie to you. Okay, next one. По-английски big window. Как будет по-русски? Большое окно. Большое окно. So even if you don't know your adjectives just yet, the adjectives currently are helpers, okay? So it's okay if you don't know your adjectives off the top of your head, but you're just listening to the adjectives and you're thinking, that sounds like a feminine adjective. That sounds like a neuter adjective. So да, по-русски большое окно, и это оно. Okay, следующее. Black Sea. Black Sea, this is very important in the Russian language. По-русски будет Черное море. Черное море, Черное море. Это оно, оно. О and е are neuters. Хорошо. Big family. Большая семья. Большая семья. И это она. Большая. That's very feminine sounding. Ooh, delicious hot dogs. Remember I told you, or I'll tell you in today's video, this is one of my favorite plurals in Russian. Вкусные хот-доги. Вкусные хот-доги. And obviously that's они. Хорошо. Difficult major. Oh, this one had one of those ost endings, which are always what gender? Let's find out. Трудная специальность. Трудная специальность. Так. Our children. We'll get to possessives in a couple of days, but in the meantime, listen to how it sounds. Наши дети. Sure enough, they both have those E sounds on the ends. Isn't that great? Evil teacher. Как будет по-русски? You can think this about me. That's totally fine. Tell your friends that Janie, злая преподаватель or злой учитель. Remember, I'm feminine, so that's why I changed that adjective. But the default for things ending in тель, учитель, преподаватель, they are masculine. So злой учитель, злой преподаватель. Next is, как будет по-русски? Next tram. Next tram, like the next tram. That word always sounds so weird to me in English. Tram, is that a word? But it is. По-русски будет следующий трамвай. Следующий трамвай. It ends in an E краткое. Remember the E with the cute little scoopy hat on top, and those are always masculine. Вот. Следующий. I really hope you know this phrase by now. Как будет по-русски? Russian language. Russian language. По-русски русский язык, и это он. Это он. Okay, this next one's tricky. Let's see if you can figure it out. Obviously, it's a plural, because eyes is plural, but it's weird. You will be very well prepared for the next two lessons if you already know this. Красивые глаза. Красивые глаза. Beautiful eyes. Beautiful eyes. Okay, your uncle. This one's tricky. This one's tricky because the word for uncle does not look like a masculine, but we know it's describing a masculine creature, so therefore it's masculine. So, по-русски будет твой дядя. Твой дядя. Next one. Tall building. Как будет по-русски? Okay, I'm going to say this one at normal tempo, and let's see if you can figure out the gender, and then I'll really slow it down and see if you can figure out the gender. Высокое здание. Высокое здание. Высокое здание. Высокое здание. Oh, это оно. Оно. Those neuters are really hard to hear at normal speaking rate. Хорошо. Next one's obviously plural. Как будет по-русски my friends? But let's see if you know, because this one's a little weird. По-русски будет мои друзья. In fact, that's in one of our songs today. Со мной мои друзья и песенка моя. Okay. Next one. Dark Night. This was a song during the Soviet time. So, night по-русски ночь. Has a мягкий знак on the end. A husher than a мягкий знак. What did I tell you about hushers plus мягкий знак? What gender are they? Okay, I'm about to give it away with the adjective. Темная. Темная ночь. Темная ночь, только пули свистят по степи. Okay, so that means dark night. And then last, one of my favorite things in life, green tea. Как будет по-русски? По-русски будет зеленый чай. И это он. Хорошо, это все. Следующий слайд. Это о хот-догах. Okay, so one of my favorite plural words in Russian is hot-dogi. That's hilarious. That sounds so funny for our English ears. But I want to kind of point out the difference between hot-dogi and собаки, or maybe the lack thereof. So all throughout Moscow, you see these kind of kiosks that sell hot-dogi. Also, back before the 2014 Olympics, you would see these stray dogs everywhere. Everywhere, like in groups of 20, or like it was just insane. And they even wrote on the metro, and in fact linked here, and I'll link in the description below, there is a whole article about how they know how to use the Moscow metro. Like they were going from one station to another, hanging out with their group of friends, and then going home at the end of the night. Like it's just insane. Yeah, like these stray dogs are amazing. I love them. So anyway, I was telling my British friend Sam that how are you eating these hot-dogi from the kiosk? Those are nasty. You don't know what meat is in there. That could be rat, that could be whatever. And he didn't pay me any mind. He just kept munching on his hot-dogi. And then one of these stray dogs came up and started begging for food, which is typically what they do. And the Russians are really good to them. They like really feed them. And Anyway, so the dog came up and started begging Sam for some of his hot dog. And so Sam broke off a little piece of his hot dog and threw it to the sabaka. And the sabaka sniffed it and then walked away. So I have a theory that there's some of these dogs in the hot doggy. Anyway, so sorry for the morbid story, but that's, yeah. Anyway, in the good old days, in the early 2000s, you could see these stray dogs all over in Moscow. Now I think they round them up and euthanize them, unfortunately. So today we are going to be talking about the 7-letter spelling rule. So what we'll do is we're going to work in the workbook, and then we're going to come back to this review, and you'll know all about the magical 7-letter spelling rule, and you'll know how an angel loses its wings every time you violate it. So, okay, хорошо. Вот, let's get this going. It's very dark today. I don't know why. Okay, that's a little better. Okay, хорошо. Все. Поехали. Вот. Okay, so first thing here is in Russian, plurals are the default plural maker. I want you to just think, okay, default plural maker is like in chipsy, jeansly. That is our default plural maker. Okay, now a few things are going to come into place that make you not be able to use the One of those things is the final consonant in the word being a soft consonant. And there's a whole system of how you know whether something's hard or soft, and I have a video I can link to down below. Next is our 7-letter spelling rule. So 7-letter spelling rule is one of the things that will make this need that will make it so you cannot use the default. Okay, so softness of a consonant, like a mягкий знак, etc., makes it so you cannot use our default plural maker. Okay, so let's look at what is this 7-letter spelling rule. Okay, so again, for those of you who have the textbook, this is all very self-explanatory, and I have some funny little things here. So what the 7-letter spelling rule is, you cannot write anywhere in the language, whether it's making plurals or adjectives or just the way you spell things, you cannot write after these 7 letters, k, g, h, and the hushers, sh, sh, zh, ch. Instead of you have to write e. Okay, so notice if as you're memorizing these 7 letters, they're the ones that you can make in the back of your throat, k, g, h, k, g, h, right? Your little back of your throat is moving around, plus the hushers, which I told you are an important letter group in Russian, and they're going to come up again and again. So sh, ch, zh, ch. Those are our hushers. So you cannot write after those. It like hurts a Russian's eyes to have to see that. It hurts to have to pronounce k like that. That's a horrible sound for somebody to have to pronounce in Russian. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at some words and say, okay, final consonant in these words. Is it affected by the 7-letter spelling rule? Yes or no? Okay, so let's look at the word for doctor, vrach, vrach. Is ch one of the 7 letters? Indeed it is. So how do we pluralize it? We go I, врачи, вот так. Okay, падеж, meaning like the cases in Russian, so precisely what this textbook is about. Падеж, is that final consonant affected by the 7-letter spelling rule? It sure is. So we cannot write we have to write e. But now what's weird is after je, e gets pronounced as so that can be very confusing when you hear it spoken because it's pronounced падежи, right? That does sound like a Okay, next is television, телевизор, телевизор. Вот. Is r affected by the 7-letter spelling rule? No. Is there any indication that r is a soft consonant, like a мягкий знак or a ya? Nope, it's not. So we get to go with our default pluralizer. Ура! Телевизоры, телевизоры. Okay? Следующее слово. Student, студент. Is T one of the 7 letters? Нет, нет, дорогая учитель. Это не К, Г, Х, Ш, Ч, Ж, Ч. Поэтому мы пишем We get to use our default, студенты. Следующее слово, волк, meaning wolf. Is K affected by the 7-letter spelling rule? It sure is, folks. It sure is. We cannot write волки. Нет, 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 нет. Это очень неприятно. Поэтому волки. Волки. Вот так. Last one for pencil. Карандаш. Карандаш. Is sh one of the 7 letters? Да, точно. Точно. It's one of our hushers. Hushers. By the way, did you know that Greeks can't say sh, zh, ch? They don't have those sounds in their language. And so my next door neighbors were Greek, and it was sto ti delais. Zin, sto ti delais. So it was fun to hear Greeks speaking Russian because they don't have any of these hushers in their language. Okay, so it is one of the 7 letters, therefore we cannot write I, we write I. Хорошо, I told you I'd go off on tangents in my classroom. That's what I do in my actual classroom as well. So, okay, next. Oh crap, my camera. And I also told you I would have all sorts of troubleshooting, and I'm not going to edit it down. So, welcome to my classroom, folks. Okay, so now what we're doing is we're looking, which one do I use? Okay, so how do we know? I mentioned something about soft consonants. Okay, so we're going to learn a little bit more about that. Not too like in depth as far as pronunciation, but we're going to learn about the concept. Okay, so as I told you, I is the default pluralizer. Okay, default pluralizer. You have to be special in some way to deserve I. Okay, so for example, here's some examples. Университет, nothing special about it. It's not soft, it's not a 7 letter, it goes to университеты. Машина, we look at our final consonant. We look at our final consonant, which is n, na, right? Nothing special about N. It's not soft, it's not a 7 letter, so машины, все. Then we do use E if, as we discussed, it is affected by the 7 letter spelling rule. See, such as подруга, подруги, падеж, падежи. Or it ends in мягкий знак, и краткое, or я. Я. Okay? Мягкий знак, и краткое, or я. Then we replace those with I. Okay, so мягкий знак и краткое and я are special. Okay, good job. You deserve an E. You're so special. Good job. Okay, so then we go from царь with a мягкий знак on the end to цари. Музей with и краткое on the end goes to музей. Идея goes to идей. Все. Okay, so what we want to do here is we want to find all the times this poor little student, bless his heart, look at him. Look how cute he is. He's trying so hard. But he made several Russian angels lose their wings because he violated the 7 letter spelling rule over and over again. Plus, he gave special treatment E to a bunch of words that didn't deserve it. So let's go through and correct some of his mistakes. Наши, bam, violation. Студенти, there is no need for a E pluralizer here, right? T is a hard consonant. There's no мягкий знак, there's no 7 letters, so this needs to be I, okay? У нас ручки. Okay, so there's a violation of the 7 letter spelling rule. You cannot write I after ka, so we correct that. Карандаши, okay, so that is the way it's spoken, but angel is losing its wings right here. Look at that. Ouchie, ouchie. They're getting plucked off that poor angel's back. So we go I right here. Новые. Okay, that's just for those of you who have learned Russian, you know that that's just a spelling mistake. Тетрады. Okay, well, guess what? The original of this was тетрадь with a мягкий знак on the end. A мягкий знак does not ever pluralize to I. Never. It cannot. It cannot get I in genitive case. It will never, мягкий знак will never turn into an I. Okay? So we need to correct that to be I. Учебники. Учебники. Ужас какой. Okay? So учебники. Вот так. And then look at this. Американские. Американские. Nope. Angel's losing its wings right there. It needs to be I because of the 7 letter spelling rule. Книги. Nope. 7 letter spelling rule. Remember? KGH. Those ones in the back of your throat. KGH. Очень. So that needs to be I. очень дорогие. See how this affects even adjectives as well. You cannot have after kg, sh, ch. You just can't, okay? So вот так. Русские университеты. Wait. Who do you think you are making a soft pluralizer on universiteti? No. There's nothing special about universitet. That's a hard consonant. There's no 7-letter spelling rule. It needs to be a on the end. Такие. Oh, these hurt my eyes. You guys, my eyes are hurting right now from having to look at this. Дорогие. Как в Америке. Okay. Okay, now let's go to this next concept that so many students go, 5 years learning Russian, not ever realizing. And that is, how do you pluralize neuters? Okay, so if you remember from our gender lesson, neuters end in o and ye. Okay, but guess what? They do their own thing when they get plurals. Okay, you're going to replace o with a, and be prepared because a lot of times there's going to be a stress shift in the word. And you're going to replace ye with ya. Okay, so for example, окно goes to окна. Слово for word goes to слова. Слова. Next is место goes to места. Места. Then we have поле goes to поля. Платье goes to платье. Занятие, like your courses in school, goes to занятия. And you can barely hear the difference in those in spoken speech. Let's come over here and practice making these neuters plural. Okay, so о goes to а, and е goes to я. Вот так. Яйцо goes to яйца. This is really hard for me to do. I'm going to try and do block letters because I feel like people who are teaching themselves Russian most likely are not writing in cursive. So, okay, so then we have лицо goes to лица. Вот так. Здание, building. Do you remember that one from the review today? Is going to go to zda. And by the way, I will not do block letter Ds. So just get used to my handwriting Ds, please. Zdania. Zdania. Again, you cannot hear the difference between these two in spoken speech. Zdania, zdania. They sound almost exactly the same. Растения. Oh, that's one of my favorite things, my plants. So, растения. Ye goes to растения. And again, you cannot hear the difference in spoken speech. Зеркало. Зеркало, meaning a mirror. Ending in an o is going to go to зеркало. With an a on the end. Задание, not to be confused with здание. Задание means like a task, like домашнее задание, homework. And it's going to go to задания, but again, you cannot hear the difference in spoken speech. Всё. Так. Okay, хорошо. While we're here in the textbook, we're going to flip to the back of the book to our handy dandy songs. They're so fun. Okay. Let's see, where are they? Look at all this cute stuff in this book. I hope everybody goes and buys it because it really is just adorable. Okay, so we're going to look at this really fun song today. It's a little kid song and it's adorable. Okay, and I've done like a live stream on it before. So, какой чудесный день, какой чудесный пень, какой чудесный я и песенка моя. These are a great way to kind of see gender in music. Then we come down here, какой веселый я. And this is really great practice for какой, какая, etc. So let's look right here. We've got one plural right here. Со мной мои друзья. We've got a plural happening. Ура, ура. Let's look in the next song for a plural. Let's do когда мы были на войне. Let's see. Looking for plurals. Когда мы будем на войне. Нет, я не вижу здесь. Okay, if you see any plurals in this and I'm missing them, let me know. I mean, they're obviously plural in different cases, but we want nominative case plurals. Oh, here's a good one. Эх, хорошо нас в стране советской жить. Let's see. Oh, here's a good one right here. Все рекорды. Все рекорды. There's a plural. And notice it's getting the default plural maker. Так, what else? Двери. Oh, look at that one. Все двери. Why is that one getting a E? It must have been a ya or a mякий знак in the original. Have you ever heard the word дверя? No, but I have heard the word закройте дверь, пожалуйста. Ah, it must be a feminine. There you go. So there's the original was dверь with a mякий знак on the end. Okay, so I just wanted to kind of use that to illustrate the fun of music and how it really brings the language to life, plus it gets things stuck in your head. We are going to do a quick review of neuter versus feminine singular because it's very, very confusing to know which one you're hearing sometimes. Okay, so here we go. Real quick, let's look through this list of words and pick out the two that are not affected by the 7-letter spelling rule. Here we go. I'm going to read them off for those of you who are just listening. Garage, подарок, лох, врач, дядя, дедушка, словарь, падеж, борщ. Okay, so let me tell you the ones that were not affected. Дядя. D is not one of the 7 letters. Словарь for dictionary. Is not one of the 7 letters. The rest are part of the 7 letters. I didn't ask, do they get E in their plurals, which is true for every single word on this list. I asked which ones are affected by the 7 letters. So tricky. Ой, какая злая преподаватель. Okay, все, хорошо. I just want to show you, I just want to read off for you really quick some of these different, I just want you to listen to these words and start training your ear to hear the difference between neuter singular, neuter plural, and guess what is going to help you? The adjectives in front, because adjectives don't lie. So listen to the adjectives in front. And then I also want to point out something interesting about the feminine singulars in this confusing comparison. And you'll notice they're all borrowed words. Isn't that interesting? They come from Greek or they come from a different language. So we're specifically talking about plural neuters that end in iya and feminine singulars that end in iya. It'll make sense to you here as I start to read these off, okay? So our dorm, and by the way, if you're listening, practice translating these into English. Our dorm, singular. Наше общежитие. Наше общежитие. Okay? My surname, my last name. Моя фамилия. Моя фамилия. Okay, so that one, if you were looking at familia and you're like, crap, is that a neuter plural or is that a feminine singular? Okay, well, look at the word in front. Моя. Okay, phew, it's a feminine singular. Okay, все, поняла. Вот так. Okay, next one, interesting tasks. Interesting tasks. Интересные занятия. Интересные занятия. Okay, so you might hear the word занятия and you think, oh, is that a feminine singular? Listen to the word in front. Интересные. No, there's no ая, right? Интересное занятие. Следующее. Интересная история. История. That's a borrowed word, sure enough. Интересная история. Okay, that one's a feminine singular. Следующее. Наша философия. Наша философия. Our philosophy. Philosophia is very obviously borrowed. So sure enough, that's a feminine singular. Наша философия. Следующее. Ваше свидание. Did you know that свидание can mean a date as well? So when you've been saying до свидания, you have been saying a date. Until the next date. So ваше свидание. Ваше свидание. Now, let's imagine you wanted to pluralize свидание. It's going to go to свидания on the end. And when you're saying до свидания, it's getting a ya on the end because it's getting genitive case. Вот так. Next one. When you're talking about the Moscow Metro, you tell people what metro line things are on. So somebody might say, красная линия. Красная линия. Is that a neuter plural? Yeah, линия is a borrowed word. That's a feminine singular. Next one. Red dresses. Red dresses. По-русски будет красные платья. Красные платья. Следующая фраза. My understanding. My understanding. Мое понимание. Мое понимание. Okay, the fact that you just got мое, oh, that's very neuter sounding. Мое понимание, and it's a neuter singular. What if we make this plural? Should we try making it plural? It's going to go to мои понимания. Мои понимания. Okay? Now let's look at the next word. Информация. Oh, that's very borrowed. In fact, all Russian words ending in atsiya are borrowed from Greek or Latin. So, новая информация. Okay, what if we wanted to plural this feminine singular? It would go to новые. And then remember, we cannot use our default because ya cannot turn into ever, ever, ever. It violates all rules of the universe, okay? Gravity would cease to exist if you tried to put right here. Новые информации. E on the end. That's how you would make a feminine singular plural, something that ends in a ya. Next one, мои извинения. Okay, so if we just hear the word извинения, oh, that sounds feminine, but let's look at the word in front. Мои извинения, my apologies. In this context, it would be примите, пожалуйста, мои извинения. Like, please accept my apologies. When you say извините, you're kind of apologizing. So, next one, фотография. Oh, это очень греческое слово, правда ведь? Это греческое слово. Моя фотография. Okay, so this one is a feminine singular. Let's just for kicks and giggles, let's make it plural. Фотографии. Don't you go putting a there. Okay. Мои фотографии. Мои фотографии. Вот так. And then last one, remember I told you anytime you hear a yo sound in моё, твоё, that is a very neuter singular. Твоё знание. And let's just for kicks and giggles make that plural. So we know that neuters ending in ye get a ya on the end. Знание. And then let's make твоё plural if you can. If you can't yet, don't worry, we'll cover it. Твои знания. Твои знания. Вот так. Это все на сегодня. Okay. That was an intense lesson. But you have covered some very important stuff. Tomorrow we're going to keep going with plural, but it's going to be some of the wacko irregulars that just are going to suck for a little while. But you can do it and you'll get used to it just like we have in English. We have irregular plurals in English, geese, goose, mice, mouse. We have a whole bunch of those and you'll be okay. You survived it in English, you'll survive it in Russian. Окей, хорошо, это все на сегодня. Увидимся на следующем уроке. Пока-пока.